Wraith is back and stronger than ever. What's up, friends? This is Metro, and today we're gonna go over my all-new Surge V4 build. To some of you, you might have already seen this in-game. I've had it publicized for a bit. I haven't gotten around making a video yet because there were some final touches I had to add. And as always, I think this is the strongest version of the build. And since it's been a while, we're going over everything again. The meta changed quite drastically because last time I made a build update, it was on the old map. So we'll go over every item and I'll give it to you in the context of the new map, of the new changes. Laning stage. This is probably what has changed the least. There is a few changes compared to last version of the build. I still run ammo scav. I still really like ammo scav. We obviously only have duo lanes now, right? And duo lanes means there is a chance your teammate takes your souls and there is a chance you don't get soul stacks on ammo scav. The reason I'm still running it is Wraith is one of the best last hitters with the new soul system. The way souls come out of creeps now after you kill them is they instantly pop up above. You can pre-fire the souls very, very easily, right? And you can guarantee last hits for your teammate and you can guarantee denies for your teammate very, very easily. You just shoot the creeps and then you keep on shooting and you go up and there's a very good chance, even when I don't shoot, to just pre-fire and I shoot before the soul pops up, and if you're in the correct spot, in the correct position, you will probably get the last hit, right? So I'll show it one more time, just real quick. It's gonna pop up around a bit above the creep, so it's really, really easy to just keep on shooting. So I think ammo scav is still great, especially because once you get to max stacks, and you do get stacks from jungle camps, by the way, later in the game, right? And Wraith is going to farm a lot of jungle. You get to 2 meter extra sprint speed, and sprint speed got an insane buff, which is going to come into this build later down the line. Sprint speed is insane now. Basically, after half a second of not dealing damage or taking damage from creeps, you will start sprinting. So as long as you're not in full team fights, you will always sprint, basically, right? So sprint speed is way, way stronger than it used to be, and it's insane on Wraith. And then we go into Hollow Point Ward. I think with all the nerfs we had over 500, like we had so many nerfs to 500 gun items, they're kind of weak right now. Right now we're really in a meta where a lot of people spam green items. And Hollow Point Ward is still the best, like I think, 500 gun item in the game other than rapid rounds on most characters. Because it just gives you, as long as you're healthy enough, it gives you 20% extra weapon damage for cheap, right? And you get a spirit shield and spirit power, which comes in really handy in lane, because on Wraith you still need to deal damage with cards in lane, even though later down we're not going to worry about cards anymore. And then we go for the classic combo, Infuser Extra Charge, right? And once we are at this and we are at 2.2k souls, we usually have 2 points in card trick, right? And then this is where our big kill combo in lane comes in. Before that we're kind of weak, but once we get to 2.2k souls, we get to the stronger cards, and then we can, like, you know, when they engage us, we pop Infuser, pop full auto, and just throw 3 cards real quick, and it kills very quick. And then we go into rapid rounds. I think this item is the best 500 gun item in the game. It used to be insane already before because fire rate is really strong on most characters, especially Wraith, but it gives you another meter sprint speed, right? Which is really good now, again. And then Enchanter's Barrier. Barriers are still king for early game survival, and Enchanters in lane, especially if you buy it in lane or early, gives you extra spirit, makes your cards deal even more damage, your full auto deal even more damage once you have it on level 2. Once you get to Enchanter's Barrier, you're already at, what is it, 465 spirit shield, and as long as that shield doesn't break, you also reap the benefits from Enchanter's Barrier, right? And then we go into sprint boots, and I am skipping extra stamina. I used to run extra stamina until now. It got nerfed over and over. Now it doesn't even give us fire rate anymore. I still think it's great, and you can still run extra stamina over sprint boots, or you can run both. But I like sprint boots more than extra stamina, because at this point we're already really, really fast, right? And this is like in lane, right? So what happens if you fight in lane? Again, after a millisecond of not taking damage, right, from creeps, or not dealing damage to creeps, you can relocate insanely fast. So I really like the sprint boots, and we're gonna keep those throughout the entire game, usually until the very late game, which we're gonna get into and go for enduring speed later. And then we're back to Tesla. And I went back to buying Tesla first in the last iteration of the build. I bought Swift Striker and Quicksilver Reload first, but the meta has changed right now. At 8 minutes, what I do on Wraith is almost every time I leave the lane and I farm Sinner Sacrifices. And these buffs are insane for Wraith because Wraith literally benefits from every single stat that comes out of these Sinner Sacrifices, right? Even something like improved cooldown, I fucked up the timing, classic, but yeah, even something like improved cooldown that these stats give you works really well because we're going for Tesla, and Tesla damage and proc chance goes up with cooldown reduction, right? So yeah, Wraith is like the #1 person that wants to farm Sinner Sacrifices in the game, right? Which means we can skip Quicksilver Reload and Swift Striker until later because we're not necessarily gonna farm jungle camps super early. Which means we don't need the damage and the farming speed from Quicksilver early because we're mostly sitting around punching statues, right? Or sorry, punching Sinner Sacrifices. And by the time you punched all the Sinner Sacrifices on your side of the map, or even some of the enemy side of the map, you already have Tesla, and then you can start farming really quickly, right? So we go Tesla, Quicksilver Reload on cards, as always. Cards don't deal that much damage anymore, they're just a reload tool, right? So Quicksilver Reload is just our reload tool on the cards whenever we want to. We pop this and we get reload speed in. Or instant reload. And then we go for Fleetfoot. I'm going Fleetfoot earlier in this version of the build because, again, getting around the map, the new map, is more valuable than before, right? So I like going Fleetfoot early. You can also go Swift Striker early if you are going to farm tier 3 camps starting from here. Swift Striker and Combat Barrier. At this point, if you don't have the flex slot, as you just saw, you can buy Combat Barrier first. At this point, I sometimes also have extra regen, right? You can buy Combat Barrier first and then go for Swift Striker or improved cooldown once you have your first flex slot. And this is another new change to the build. Improved cooldown. I'm running this over Duration Extender. In the last version of the Surge build, we ran Duration Extender. With help of some of my friends, I'll give Ranger a lot of credit here. Ranger is a really good guy from America. He plays for Deathy's team, if you guys don't know it. What's the name? TF2 Boomers, sorry. Improved cooldown adds a lot of damage to Tesla bullets because it reduces the cooldown from 0.30, or the passive cooldown from 0.35 seconds to, when you buy it now, to 0.30. So it makes our Tesla deal a lot more damage, which means farms creep camps faster. It does reduce the cooldown of something like full auto enough to where in a long fight you end up suddenly getting full auto twice, right? It lowers the cooldown from, what is it? I think it's 35, I don't want to lie. So it lowers the cooldown from 34, 35 seconds down to 29, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but this is like enough to where in some drawn out mid-game fights, you get full auto twice, and that's insanely valuable. And early on in the build, before we get to Surge of Power, we will do most of our damage from Tesla, right? Tesla is gonna add a lot of damage to our build. Obviously, it's still gonna be gun, right? But the Tesla damage is not to be underestimated, especially in the early mid-game. And then we go for Bullet Lifesteal, self-explanatory, right? Like, we don't have a Heroic Aura in this build, so we need some Lifesteal. And most of our damage still comes from our bullets, and then we go for Surge of Power. And this is the item you can also skip if you want to. You can skip if you get very far ahead after this. You can skip Bullet Lifesteal and improve cooldown, and you can go straight for Surge of Power. At that point, this is our big power spike. If once we get to Surge of Power, we do insane damage. At the point you get Surge of Power, you will have full auto maxed, right? So it's gonna have the full scaling of the build. And once you pop this, you can win any 1v1 in the game in the matter of like 2 seconds, right? So what you do is you engage, right? You pop Infuser, pop your ult and your 3, and they will die like flies. This is insane DPS early on, and probably the highest DPS of any character in the game early on, I would say. So yeah, it's insane damage. And then we go for Healbane. Healbane is probably the best item in the game right now, and people are still not buying it. Please buy your Healbanes. Like, every hero has some sort of healing item, right? Like, Calico is gonna do melee lifesteal, right? Calico gets passive healing from a 2. Kelvin has healing. Abrams has healing with his aura, right? Shiv has healing. Spirit lifesteal. My point is, every fight you take, the enemy hero, 99% of the time, will have some sort of healing. And Healbane, us having Healbane, is going to cut that healing basically in half. Almost half, right? It reduces the enemy healing to 40%. And you don't have to think about this item because it passively procs on Tesla bullets. So even if you don't throw a card, or even if you don't have full auto active to do spirit damage, Healbane will still be active on the target you shoot and anyone around them, because Tesla also hits them, right? And it gives you, as a little bonus, healing if you get the kill. So if you're in situations where you're trying to clutch a 1v2, this can come in really handy as well. Healbane, and then I usually upgrade Enduring Speed. By the way, I just realized I didn't sell, but it tells you in the build what to sell during this time. Again, the first thing we'll always sell is Extra Charge, because again, after a lane, we don't really need 3 cards in reserve, and cards are mostly used for reloading after that point. So we sell Extra Charge, and then we can sell either Rapid Rounds or Hollow Point Ward, right? And at that point, even if you have to sell all 3, you will have your item set with 2 flex slots. And assuming you only have 1 flex slot here, by the way, worst case scenario is you don't upgrade to Enduring Speed and you sell your Sprint Boots, right? That way, this is still a really potent combo if you're behind in the game and you're lacking 2 flex slots. In my experience, flex slots happen easier on the new map because you only have to kill 1 walker for the second one, right? And then we go into late game build. But I just want to show you real quick. I'm going to load into the new map. So I'll give you a short preview of something I will talk way more in depth about in my next video, which is going to be a macro guide. But I just want to show you the power of the build in the mid game and what you should do to make it work. Let's say you had a normal laning stage and at 8 minutes you went and farmed the Sinner Sacrifices and you're about to let's say you don't even have bullet lifesteal. Let's say you're about mid game and you have like 1,250 souls, which is really realistic at let's say 10 minutes. So at 12k, you're gonna have enough levels to get to full auto, by the way. So your build is gonna look something like this probably. And let's say you're back in base at like 10 minutes, right? I know it says 8 minutes on the clock right now. I just want to show you a quick farming route and how fast you can actually get to souls, right? So what you can do is on the bottom right, there is an insanely efficient farming route you can do, especially with this build on Wraith. So you go to this creep camp, right? They're not spawning. What is this? Okay, it's bugged, but the creeps are here, I promise. They're taking damage, and this is the normal damage the creeps would take here, right? So I want you to know, this is the normal damage the creeps would take, and I haven't really timed the starting time, right? But you go from this creep camp to this tier 2 here. This is the weirdest creep farm I've ever done. I can't even headshot crit them. But just farming these 4 creep camps is gonna give you roughly like 1,750 souls. And if you do it well and fast, you can get this done with some kiting, using tricks like sliding down this stairs, etc. You can get this done in exactly like a minute. So it is like insanely high farm of souls per minute, and usually by the time I get to Tesla and get to where I am now, let's say I don't have like improved cooldown or something, this is all up, right? In most of my games, unless you have like a lot of AFK farmers. So my point is, on this new map, this build is even stronger and Tesla is even stronger, because once you get to Tesla, you can farm the jungle so efficiently and so fast compared to any other version of the map, because there's so many smaller creep camps like this one, and then there's one right next to it, right, where you can keep on proccing Tesla. Getting to the power spike of Surge of Power is insane, right? So until you get to Surge of Power, you should really worry about farming. You still want to make sure your objectives don't die, right? So if the team pushes like a walker as 4, show up and defend, right? Or if you realize the enemy's not defending, you can still push up and pressure towers and even walkers, but not as much as the old map, right? Before, if you checked out my heroic build or my older Surge version, I would go for objectives very early on Wraith, right? Like I would get an early power spike and go for a walker early. This is really risky to do now because there's only 3 walkers. So the chance of an enemy showing up and defending and killing you is way higher, and also they increase the HP of walkers. So while Wraith is still the best split pusher in the game, you need to farm a bit longer to get there, but once you get there, you're even stronger, okay? So it's just kind of a bit of a gameplay difference, I would say. Not so much a build difference. But I mention it here because once you get to Surge of Power here in this build, we have an insane power spike, and this is where we really should start to force fight with the team. And at this point, every single Sinner Sacrifice we hit gives us an insane power spike. Every single one makes us stronger, right? I've had a Last video, or the video before last video, you can check out, it's up on YouTube. We're at 7k HP on Wraith, and I walked into their spawn 1v6 and killed them in a pretty high SR lobby, or a pretty high rating lobby. So like, yeah, my point is, Wraith is like insane hard carry still. But at this point, you can show up for teamfights and solo walkers really easily if you have to. Here we go to the next change to the build. I used to run Lucky Shot here, but I'm now running Crippling Headshot. Why is that? I mentioned earlier the meta has evolved more into people spamming green items. A lot of resist, right? People running a lot of bullet resist, a lot of spirit resist, and they're running a lot of HP. Fortitude is like hard meta, right? Which is an item that is still great, even on Wraith. I don't like it in this build personally, but people are running a lot of HP, a lot of sustain, and a lot of builds just have like 4 green items in the flex slots, which makes Crippling Headshot insanely valuable because it gives you and your entire team bullet shredder resist and spirit resist by hitting 1 headshot every 4 seconds. It's really easy to do, right? So it gives us an insane amount of damage increase, especially on Wraith, because again, our damage at this point, if we're at 25k and I level up my hero to around 25k, and we're skilling normally, we're gonna do roughly like 35 to 40% of our damage in Spirit 2. Because once we proc full auto, right? And we proc, by the way, I mentioned this in every video I do, you wanna pop Infuser, and at this point we still keep Infuser. You wanna use Infuser before you use full auto. Because the way full auto scales and the duration of full auto scales, right? It scales with spirit. It only works if you proc Infuser first. So if you use Infuser first, it's gonna extend the duration of full auto. If you use full auto and then Infuser, it's not gonna extend the duration. You're still gonna get more damage, more spirit damage, but the duration doesn't go up. So you initiate the fight by proccing Infuser and then proccing full auto. And assuming we don't hit perfect headshots, you can see the damage numbers. They're pretty close, right? Like, it's like 33-66, and that was with a lot of headshots, right? Obviously, once full auto runs out, our damage comes mostly from our gun and not as much spirit, right? The only spirit we have now is from Tesla. But the Tesla damage in this build also, again, goes up and up because we have improved cooldown, and every Sinner Sacrifice we hit, the cooldown of Tesla goes lower and lower. So Tesla actually scales into the late game here. And it's an item I never sell in this build. So Crippling Headshot instead of Lucky Shot. Lucky Shot is still a good option. If you feel like you're struggling with ammo, it's an option, but that's also a reason we're running Crippling now. We don't usually need the ammo anymore at this point. Why? Because we have been punching Sinner Sacrifices for the entire game, right? And a lot of the time, these Sinner Sacrifices actually give us ammo buffs. So at this point, once I get to Crippling Headshot, I usually have more than enough ammo from the passive bonuses, from the Sinner Sacrifices, to where I don't need any more magazine perks, right? To where I can actually end up selling Ammo Scav if I have to, because Ammo Scav, we don't need the extra ammo anymore, and to where later down the line I might even end up selling Infuser. Before this, on the old version of the map, the 30% extra ammo that Lucky Shot gives you really helped Lucky Shot in this build, but now we don't need it anymore. So Crippling Headshot is just a better option for more damage. It is a tiny bit harder to play because you're not going to slow down the enemy, right? Lucky Shot does slow down the enemy movement by 30%, but you can always run Mystic Slow, which I end up buying later as an upgrade down the line anyways. And then we go Siphon Bullets. This item is insane. It adds more damage while making it more tanky, while giving you an additional layer of lifesteal. Keep in mind at this point, we already have insane amounts of lifesteal. We have Bullet lifesteal, we have Infuser, 20% Spirit, and then once we proc full auto, we get another 20 of both, right? So when we proc this, we had 45% Bullet lifesteal and 42% Spirit lifesteal. So basically, if I deal like, if I deal like 1,000 damage here combined or 2,000 damage here combined, I'll get 1,000 HP back myself, basically. Is the way you want to think about it. And then, I tend to go for Leech nowadays. Leech is insane, actually. Like, the more I play it, which gives us even more lifesteal and gives us even more HP damage, while increasing the anti-heal we have on the enemy, right? So, insanely valuable. And there's a reason I have Healing Booster right after this. By the way, at this point, if you need to sell anything, in the later game, you can end up selling barriers. Barriers are really strong early, but in the later game, 300 armor of the bullet shield goes down very fast. So usually I end up selling combat barrier first, right? And then if I need to, I also send up enchanter's barrier. I think barriers mid-game, still great, but late game they fall off. Because healing stacks diminishingly and we get 2% bullet lifesteal from leech, we sell bullet lifesteal and instead buy healing booster. This is going to give us overall more healing because it increases the effectiveness of our healing and it also reduces the resistance to enemy healing reduction, right? So this is just like an upgrade you buy right after leech and you replace bullet armor. By the way, if you forget anything I'm saying, and I know I'm saying a lot right now, I have annotations for all these late game items that explain when to buy them and when they make sense and what to replace them with, okay? So I have annotations in game for this. Before late game, you just go from left to right, basically. I mean, at this point, I have probably some sort of armor too, because I usually end up buying either escalating resilience or spirit armor, or an E-shift, right, to survive longer. So utility as needed is stuff I buy. At this point, you should all know what they do, right? If the enemy has a lot of gun damage, I buy escalating resilience. If the enemy has a lot of spirit damage, I buy spirit armor. If the enemy has a lot of things I need to dodge and can dodge with E-shift, I buy it. So let me give you a few examples. Lash ult, right? Lash is very prominent right now. You can dodge with E-shift. Bebop bombs, you can dodge with E-shift, right? You don't need debuff remover necessarily. E-shift just works against more things, right? There's a lot of things you can dodge, I'm brain farting right now. If the enemy jumps you, right? You can stall for 3 seconds and use E-shift. So E-shift is a great item. So if there's a lot of things I want to dodge, let's say, pocket ult, etc., etc., E-shift. If there's a lot of spirit damage overall, spirit armor. If there's a lot of bullet damage, I buy escalating resilience. If the enemy has a bebop, a gun bebop, I buy withering whip. And this is something Goober told me, and it works really well. So you buy this item, and what this item does is it gives the enemy 45% fire rate slow. So if the enemy has a bebop and they're a gun bop and you get hooked, you wait until they hook you, and you cast this on them, and they can't kill you anymore because they only shoot half the speed. Right, so the entire buff they get by the hook uppercut combo that bebops do, this fucks it for 1000. So this is an anti-bebop item. Slowing X, if the Infernus has rapid recharge, if you need to catch a lot of people that can escape. I don't buy this a lot anymore right now, to be honest. I usually am fine by just shooting. You have so much movement speed in this build when you have Surge of Power and Fleet Foot, right? You have so much movement speed that you can catch up to anyone really easily anyways. Which, by the way, another thing I forgot to mention, Sinner Sacrifices, when they give you Spirit, all your damage is going to go up, your Spirit damage, right? But also, Wraith's sprint speed scales with Spirit. So the more Spirit you have, the faster you run, right? So I end up in the late game suddenly being insanely fast. Insanely fast because I have so much passive spirit from the Sinner Sacrifices, right? Which is something I don't usually buy. I don't go extra spirit or boundless spirit just to get faster movement speed. And then debuff reducer and remover against bomb bebop, Infernus burn. I also buy this a lot against Moan Krill because if Moan Krill blinds you, you basically do nothing, right? All your damage comes from your gun, even your full auto spirit damage comes from your gun. So if you're disarmed, you do nothing. So I buy this a lot against Moan Krill, Infernus, pocket, and bomb bebop. So let's say you followed this build, let's say this is what your build looks like right now. At this point, I buy Burst Fire because you can just replace Enduring Speed or Swift Striker with it. Burst Fire is just an upgrade to both, right? Burst Fire provides movement slow resist, just like Enduring Speed. So if you have enough sprint speed at this point, you can just sell this, get some more damage, some more fire rate, some more movement speed, right? Or if you feel like you want to keep the speed you have right now, but you want some extra damage and movement speed, then you can sell Swift Striker, right? Which gives you 20% fire rate, and you go up to, a 40% fire rate when Burst Fire is active, right? And again, what you're losing when you sell Swift Striker is the 10% ammo as well, right? But we don't care about ammo on this build, right? If you play it correctly and you farm the Sinner Sacrifices, we have enough ammo, so we go Burst Fire, right? So this is a late game upgrade, again, explained in game. And then late game, fights don't tend to last long enough to where you can get double full auto. At this point, you get so much spirit that your full auto lasts for the entire fight, right? Like with enough spirit, if you pop Infuser, let's say you still have Infuser here, this lasts for like, I don't want to lie, it really depends on how many Sinner Sacrifices you farm, but it's gonna last for a long time, right? So getting duration extender and a superior duration over improved cooldown is worth more, right? So at this point, our Tesla does a bit less, so I end up selling improved cooldown and I go for duration extender and superior duration on full auto, just so I guarantee in that last important fight that my full auto is on. And it is gonna be on for a long time. Like, I'm guessing right now, probably around 25 seconds of full auto active. And by the way, like it says on the tooltip, it says 15 seconds. It's more than that because we still get the extra spirit from Infuser, right? And it's gonna be longer in your games again, because you're gonna have more spirit, because you're gonna have more Sinner Sacrifices. Super late game, if you want more HP, you buy Colossus. And at this point, I've been yapping for a long time. Situational items, let's go over it real quick. Toxic Bullets, if you really need a lot of anti-heal, if the enemy really has a lot of healing and you can't afford to go leech early, if you're not super farmed, you can buy Toxic Bullets. And Toxic Bullets in combination with Healbane means the enemy won't heal, because they do stack, right? So you're gonna go up to like 75% anti-heal on the enemy, or 80% or something. Intensifying Magazine is like, is a pick if you don't get ahead and you're behind and you need more damage. And let's say you can't afford Crippling Headshot, right? If you can't afford a 6k item and you're really starved for money, you can decide to run Intensifying Magazine before you go to Crippling Headshot, because this is gonna add quite a lot of damage in like longer fights. It's quite a good item on Wraith, and a lot of people have this in their main build on Wraith. I just put it in situational because from my experience, going straight for Crippling Headshot is usually a bigger power spike, right? Or going straight for Siphon Bullets and then Crippling Headshot is a bigger power spike than having to spend another 3k for another item in the mid game. That's what I like to do anyways, right? In the build I used before, I had it in here. You can still easily run this right here after Enduring Speed, or just skip Enduring Speed altogether. Bullet Armor, I really only buy this if they have a massive amount of bullet damage. Usually escalating resilience is enough. Unstoppable, I actually end up buying quite a lot. So I should actually probably move this a bit forward in this build, because I end up buying, like, I'll order these in the order I buy them in, okay? Or in the order of like importance, right? So I end up buying Unstoppable a lot, because I end up being like a super hard carry in the late game a lot of the time, and then the only thing that can really kill me, if I have like Leech and Siphon Bullets, right? The only thing that can really kill me is like hard stuns. Moan Krill, Black Hole, right? Lash Ult. And then if you can just pop Unstoppable and they can't do anything to you, you will kill someone during that time, right? So Unstoppable is a lot better in the new meta, I feel like, for Wraith. And then, yeah, again, Curse. If the enemy is super farmed, I don't like buying this personally. I know some people really like it, but it's a really big investment to shut down one person. And I really think this build is like a hyper carry. You can kill anyone on the enemy team kind of build. You are the main damage of the team, and in my opinion, you shouldn't really give up the damage. It's better for one of your teammates to buy Curse, so you can focus on dealing as much damage and being as sustainable as possible. And then Superior Stamina, if you like stamina, there's a broken item, probably gonna get nerfed soon, because it has like insane movement speed. You've seen every pro player in the world run this right now, right? Everyone runs around with this and does these side dashes because they have like insane distance cover, right? And they're like faster than like jump dashes, right? So you can just like do this kind of stuff, or like do like sideways double dash and get like to like, look at the distance, right? We're in the middle of the map, and I'm just gonna do a sideways dash here. This is insane. And now I'm gonna do double dash. And if you get good at this, yeah, like you can basically cross the entire map insanely fast. If you're good at this, so you jump and sideways dash immediately, basically. You want to do sideways, like 45-degree angle. So if you want to move forward, it seems counterproductive. You kind of look here and dash this way, if that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Try out the build. I think it's insanely good. Let me know what you think. If you have any ideas yourself, Wraith is really, really strong. Farm those Sinner sacrifices until they get nerfed. They will get nerfed eventually. They're so OP on Wraith. And I'll see you next time. See you, friends. Bye-bye.